Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for September 2nd. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Aman. How you doing, Aman?
I'm great. I haven't been on a morning update in a while, so I'm really excited to be back and talking Big Brother in an official capacity instead of just
Yes.
tweeting out.
Yes. You really chose an update to be on here, Aman,
I
because, yeah.
the perfect update. I was so ready yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna take some notes, get all my opinions together and compiled, and then somebody just had to ruin it with a bullhorn. But that's fine. It made it easier. Made it a lot easier.
Yes, we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 22 live feeds, and it was day 28 in the house. I say this sometimes, and it's sometimes not true, but this should be a shorter update today because
Mm-hmm.
the feeds were down for upwards of 9 hours yesterday due to another attempt at wall yelling where they actually got caught by security. Um,
Look,
uh,
if you want the social media glory of wall yelling, do it after. And I'm not condoning wall yelling to begin with. Y'all know how I feel about the wall yelling. But if you want to do that, at least record the video, take a picture, take a snapshot of security or whatever. Take a selfie with security. Who cares? But post it after you do it, not before, because then what's the point?
the point is social media clout to begin with. They got to be like, "Hey guys, what do you think? You think I should do this?" And they just want people to be like, "Yeah."
I just want to know how many of them are actually in ownership of bullhorns before they do this, or do how many of them actually go out and buy? Because I was looking online for the pricing of some of these megaphones, and they're not cheap. They cost a pretty penny. So people are very, very invested in this
Oh
season,
man,
I
see
must say.
now we're getting to a socioeconomic problem where only people who can afford bullhorns are and own cars that can drive to the place are able to
Mm-hmm.
influence the game in this
Mm-hmm.
way. That's a problem.
Yes, is an extreme problem. If I don't have access to yelling over the wall, then no one should have access to yelling over the wall, especially if you're just going to yell something that's so inconsequential that might help out the bigger alliance. Like, uh, man, man,
Yeah.
oh man, oh man.
All right. Well, let's get into the day. We started the day off with Ian and Bailey. Ian was talking about the previous wall yeller, and he explained his octopus theory to her. That it's an octopus. I'm still thinking about this term. I feel like sometimes we adapt terms that were used by the players. Like Onion Alliance kind of stemmed from Survivor Gabon. And
Mhm.
so like we're cool with that now. It was years ago. Like is Ian creating the is Ian creating the octopus structure? Am I going to have to talk about that in the next Development of Alliance Structure podcast?
I think what makes it so hard is that it's kind of like fruit of the poisonous tree, right? Like he's only starting this because of what he's heard because of the wall yeller. And I don't know if CBS is going to want to put that into the edit. So how are they going to get him talking about this octopus with all of these tentacles without that? So it's kind of hard. I mean, I get it. The logic is what? Like that Nicole and Cody are the body, and all their tentacles are all of their side alliances, so you want to cut off the tentacles. That's like sort of like leaning into animal abuse. I don't know. It's just sort of weird. I get it. Fine, Ian. Fine.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. I think this will make the episodes
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds very exciting, even though it won't probably lead anywhere.
Yeah.
But they love things that sound exciting. My
Mm-hmm.
guess, though, is that they will just leave out all of the parts where he says, because of the wall yeller.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just make him seem like he's really smart, even though he's also wrong.
Yeah, because somebody did make an interesting point on Twitter the other day. Like, oh, well, back in season 10, they showed an entire plane flying over the house, and nowadays they just try and be mum's the word about the whole thing. So I was like, Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point in age, like where social media is such a beast, I have to imagine they probably would cut that out because they don't want to encourage, copycats. So
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like the banner plane in season 8 was had such a massive impact on the game that they had to show it. And it also was like sort of like oh, they were stuck outside, so there was nothing that anybody could do. And the banner planes, like, that's a serious investment if we're talking about people who have access to influence the game to rent a banner plane to do this for you. And then I believe they worked hard to prevent banner planes from accepting these kinds of requests.
Really?
So
that's hilarious.
but yeah, I don't think that they will. I don't think that they will want to encourage the wall yelling because it's a nightmare for them. And we'll talk about it. But the person who tried to wall yell last night got the feeds shut down for 9 hours, and they were talking about how they will not have access to the backyard for at least another week. So there's not a lot that they currently can do about it other than just lock them inside. So if people keep yelling over the wall, they will just lock them inside. That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to just common decency, y'all. Like, do you like the players that are on the season? Do you like at least some of them? Do you want them to have access to the outside? Do you want them to be cooped up inside all the time? Like, poor Ian loves that hammock, and now he's not going to have it. Like, can we get him an inside hammock or something, or a rocking chair or something? Like, it's just, come on, y'all, come on.
All right. So Ian is telling Bailey that he's got this octopus theory, and he's like, I feel like there's real core. There's like one person really, like two people that are like running the game. And Bailey's like, oh, I think I'm on the same wavelength. I think we've got this same idea. And Ian's like, what if we say it at the same time? Mm-hmm. It's like a sitcom moment. And she's like, sure. It's like, okay, Aman, you're gonna be Ian.
Okay. And
I'm gonna be Bailey. 1, 2, 3. Danny.
Cody. What'd you say?
I said Danny. You said Cody?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're in the same nucleus, right?
Definitely. Yeah. We should talk more.
Yeah, later.
We should talk.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you later.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that they are at least starting something. I mean, I feel like, you talked about, the flow of information a lot in the house, and I feel like he is really letting a lot of people in on his thoughts and his theories and everything. And now I'm worried that this might not have the effect that he wants it to. But, and this is jumping ahead a little bit too much, but at least Kaser was like, Davon, Bailey, those are people that you really should consider working with. So maybe that will like inspire him to try and keep a lid on it. I mean, although it's kind of, you can't really unring the bell at this point. He's already telling everybody. So, but I was at least glad that he chose Bailey as one of the people that he wanted to talk to about this, because she's one of the only people that's probably more amenable to working with him, whether it's against Cody or Danny. So,
yeah. So the problem is that Bailey is not as trustworthy in this regard as Kaser thinks she is. But Ian goes to Kevin and says, "Hey, I had a new idea. What if we use Kaser to blow up the alliance so that we're not attached to it? So we tell everything to Kaser and we get him to blow everything up, and then our hands are clean." And my response to this is like, first, what incentive, like, why does everyone think that they can just use Kaser to advance their games while also not even remotely promising him a vote? And then two, it's way too late to keep your hands clean of this. You've already told two people, one of which has already told somebody else. You're gonna be attached.
Yeah. On top of the fact that Kaser has already been blowing up people's games
Yeah.
to y'all.
And that was Kevin's response. Nobody's gonna listen to Kaser. He's been doing this for weeks.
No credibility whatsoever. I mean, it might, rattle you during the live show a little bit, but all that's going to do is, make everybody sort of like want to consolidate even more, especially if you're getting called out. You just want to, prove to everybody, oh, I don't know what he's talking about. So, yeah, I mean, it's like as if Ian is sort of like taking an artifact from BB14 in that, there was always someone ahead of him that's game was like being blown up to smithereens. I mean, I think, Frank was always like the biggest shield in the house for everybody. He was always blowing his own crap up. So he's like, well, if I can, now that like my strategy of laying low and doing what Nicole says and then potentially winning out, maybe now that that's probably a wash, now I need to get somebody else in front of me, or at least a house target for everybody. So let me just spread this around. But I mean, I just don't know how much that's going to work when people already have that in the back of their mind anyway. They just haven't done anything about it. Like, that's the problem. The problem isn't like the room, or the problem is the house guests. Like, they're not going to do anything about it because they had 2 weeks at this point to do something and they've done nothing. So,
Ian lets Kevin know that he did already drop some seeds down with Bailey. And Kevin is like, you should be careful about Bailey. Which is, yes, true, but also rich coming from the guy who already spilled everything to Devon.
Right. I don't know how that was so interesting to me, because I mean, maybe I've missed a few things about the relationship over the past 4 weeks, but I'm like, how can you be so trustworthy of Devon, but you have a side eye for Bailey, yet you tell everything to Devon? So you think that's not going to get back to her? Like, work together, people. Y'all are all on the outs. You're all on the outs.
Him and Bailey hate each other. They were like, even just yesterday, they were like very snippy with each other. She hates like that he makes comments that are kind of like mean, but like jokingly mean. But then when she makes a jokingly mean comment back, he's apparently like whoa, like that annoys her. Like, and Janelle and Kaser always talk so much crap about him to her, that I'm sure that had some effect. And Devon talks crap about Bailey to Kevin, and she tells him that she's not trustworthy. So.
Yeah, that certainly doesn't help. That is very true. Devon is not shy about letting people know that she's not all 100% in on Bailey, which is such a shame. But yeah, I mean, Kevin really doesn't have like a leg to stand on. So it's very interesting that he tends to like be the moral barometer in the house when you have problems with almost everyone. So, okay.
There's been a big problem this season with players who don't try to get their allies to work together. Like, that's a big part of Big Brother, is that like don't have your allies attack each other, because you've just ruined all of your allies. Get your allies to work together so that they can go against your enemies. That's the way to go. But in this season, we have a lot of people who almost intentionally work to get their own allies to target each other, which diminishes their power in the game. Like, if Devon was able to like put in a good word for Bailey with Kevin and vice versa and get them to work together, then they'd now have so much more power in the game, because they'd be a trio, and it would be great. And people already see them as a trio because they know that Devon links the two of them, so they might as well actually be functioning as one.
Yeah, I mean, for a house that's so obsessed with not dividing the house, there are so many divisions that you guys are like, oh, as long as we don't speak of it, it's fine. You know what I mean? But you really should do everything in your power to consolidate your numbers, because they're dwindling really, really fast. So, I mean, you would hope You would hope, but I
All
don't
right.
know.
Well, Ian is like, "Whoa, I might have said too much to Bailey." So,
Yeah.
whoops. Oh well.
Yeah. He's
Bailey's
like,
gonna.
he's like, because Kevin was like, yeah, if you might want to be a little mama's the word around her, and he was like, yeah, I had the same thought.
Well,
Yeah.
his first reaction was, "Oh well, I didn't tell her much," and then they continued talking a little bit, and he was like, "Yeah, I might have made a mistake. I might have said a little too much to Bailey. That might have been, oops. Yep. Oh well."
Oh, Ian. Well, I mean, it's as much as like it's late him coming to the party. It was entertaining. He was probably one of my favorite moments of the day yesterday.
Yeah, it's I mean, Ian just has this like shiny new thing that he's just like he can't help but be like, "Guys, look." Wait a minute, I shouldn't have shown you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Bailey talks to Kaser, and she wants to know like, hey, you talked about blowing up Danny's game. What do you got on Danny? And he's like, nothing actually. I was kind of bluffing. I don't actually have. I've said all of my information. She's like, okay, but I mean, what if you like really blew people's games up, like on your way out the door or something, right? Like, what if you did something like that? And he's like, what do you think I've been trying to do for the last 4 weeks? It's like, that's what I've been doing. I don't know what you expect from me. Like, are you gonna vote for me to stay? Well, no. I mean, you're not staying. But like, if you wanted to do something big on your way out the door, that would be pretty good.
God.
That could benefit me. It's like, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, it's like some sort of like shady deal that's going down. Like Bailey's like, hey, you got any of that? You got any of that Danny stuff? You got any of that Danny stuff for sale? In case it's like, look, I ran out yesterday, and plus I tried to get you to get it last time, but you told me no.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
what? Like
you still haven't paid for the other stuff I gave you. I need some money right now. I've got some bills to pay. I need something, and you're saying that you want it for free.
and I was so annoyed with her because she said because he made that point and she was like, "Oh, well, I already told you it's because we didn't have any power, so we couldn't do anything about it." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. It wasn't just about the power. Y'all literally were ice walling the both of them. Like, come on. Well, you weren't ice walling specifically Janelle, but like as soon as Janelle leaves, like you thought that Janelle was on her own. You thought that Janelle was just an island and that Kaser wasn't probably the one helping out Janelle a lot. And so now all of a sudden that Janelle is gone, all of Kaser's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, and you're all but telling him that he's going to be out the door next, and you want him to help you on his way out, and he is still being kind and gracious enough to tell you, I don't think this is going to have the effect that you want it to have.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh, well, you're just gonna do nothing. You're just gonna walk out of here and do nothing. He's been doing more than you have for 4 weeks.
Yeah. Listen, Bailey, a great man with an IQ of 187 once told me that my credit is very low in this house. So I don't think it's gonna be worth much. That's David, by the way. He claimed to have an IQ of 187.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We know. Let's just pretend that's real.
It was like when like a little boy makes an absurd claim that he doesn't realize is absurd, and everybody immediately knows it's absurd.
I'm hoping that he just isn't like that familiar with like the gradient of IQs and thought that 187 was, an average number, and he just forgot in his own mind. Because for you to be out here making claims that you know what, let me not do this to David today. Let me not do it. I'm gonna let him leave. I'm gonna let him live.
Like when I was a little boy myself, I claimed that my mom had a Mitsubishi for a car, that she had a Mitsubishi, and everybody knew I was dirt poor, and they immediately knew I was lying. And I wasn't even intending to lie. I just didn't know what kind of car it really was.
Exactly. I'm really hoping that's what it was. I really am. Which is so ironic considering the topic of conversation. Oh man. David. David.
Oh boy. Davon's gonna talk with Nicole, and she just wants to reiterate, like, hey, we're not coming for each other, right? Like, we're cool. We're not gonna gun for each other. We're all good. Day says, like, I don't care about this wall yelling situation. Like, don't worry about it from my end. I haven't heard anybody like really talking about it too much. Nicole is like, yeah, it makes sense that this would happen because I took out Janelle, so people are gonna try and ruin my game. And you know what? It probably means that Janelle's not coming back if everyone's so angry about it.
Mm-hmm. I was definitely one of those people that was expecting Nicole to have a fit. I totally bought into the idea of her running around the diary room, being like, "Oh, you guys said that you would protect me. I can't believe you let this happen, and it's crazy. I want to go back to Vic. I have a wedding to plan." I was
Call in the
totally in on all of that.
planes. Call in
Exactly.
the army.
The National Guard, like everything. But I mean, granted, a lot of time took place. Like it was like the feeds were down for like what 3 something hours after the first initial wall yell. So there may have been some time for her to calm down. But still, I have to say that she has been handling this very well. We haven't heard many conversations pertaining to her about the wall yelling. And she hasn't really been included in a lot of them. So props to Nicole for not freaking out and allowing this to sort of like wash over her, because Cody seems to be more, and he's not that much worse, but like he seems to be worse off than she is. And she's sort of like, I don't know if she recognizes that, but she's certainly like, it's fine. It's fine.
Nicole's a
Like,
lot more used to this sort of thing.
she is.
People have been calling her a rat and a snake and calling out her
Mm-hmm.
game for years now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I mean, like we said, like the message, I mean, yeah, they're the only ones that were mentioned by name, but it's not as if it was that damaging. So I feel like freaking out would just make it would just give credence to what was said over the wall. So you have no other choice but to play it cool. And
Yeah,
that's what
and it
she's
helps
doing.
that the only person that really cares about the wall yell is Ian, who will still keep her safe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you
um,
do you like this play between the two of them though? Because I kind of go back and forth on it all the time. I honestly just feel like Devon should just take the shot. I don't understand like why she has this sense of loyalty to Nicole. I mean, it's great that they were able to reconnect on night one, if you really can even call it a reconnection. And Nicole finally, said, "Oh, I'm so happy you changed my life. You gave me that vote, yada yada yada." But honestly, like that's been 4 years ago. That was a whole election cycle ago. Like, get her out, Devon. Like, because she's going to be coming for you eventually. She has such a short leash. Like, get her out.
I mean, I will say that it is genuine. Like for now, Nicole really isn't coming after Day, and she has said like I'm not going to go after Day. So like with that in mind, Devon does have bigger fish to fry. Like Danny is
Mm.
definitely more dangerous. Cody is very much more dangerous. Enzo even is way more dangerous to her game than Nicole because Enzo wants Day gone. Cody wants Day gone.
Yeah.
Nicole would prefer Bailey leave, and probably wouldn't even put Devon up next to her.
Yeah.
So Nicole's actually one of the best people in the house for Devon for now. I don't trust that she will stay this way.
Right.
I absolutely agree that eventually Nicole will probably do something to screw Devon over, but for the time being, Devon just has so many more enemies that Nicole, who's not actually coming for her right now, she might as well be like, yes, we're great buddies because
Yeah.
everyone else is coming for me and you're not.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it definitely doesn't have to be anything immediate. Like, you're right. She has been going around saying to everybody, like, "Oh yeah, I can't go after Devon." But like, in a way, I kind of feel like that, like, forces Devon's hand a bit for you to. I was kind of surprised that she told that to her. I was like, "Oh, so you're sort of like linking us together now. Like, you're literally telling everybody that you're never going to come after me in this game." That's a little dicey because then that just gives everybody else free reign to be like, "Okay, well then I'll do it." So it's like I just wonder at some point, like, what is the best spot for Devon to do? I mean, first of all, she has to win an HOH. But when she does that, if she does that, I honestly feel like it's just like either put her up or backdoor her ass because she might not be coming for you now, but she's certainly not going to put up an opposition for everybody else to come for you. And that's not an ally. That's just someone that has an armistice with you for the time being. So
I mean,
I don't know.
do.
I'm just nervous because I don't want her to get got again. And I feel like
Yeah.
Nicole is going to be the one that's going to get her out again.
Well, see, that's the sort of thing that I think is screwing some people up in the game, where like Kaser didn't want to be Dr. Wild again, so he's been so focused on Tyler. But it's like Tyler would have been beneficial to your game if you had kind of tried to work with him. And I feel like if Day tried to go after Nicole right now or even soon, it would probably be a really big mistake because she's one of the few people that's not actually coming for Day.
And then everybody else that was a part of her alliance, even though they're already anti-Day anyway, they're gonna be like, "Oh, she was never coming for you. I can't believe you did this to her. Oh my god."
Yep. And then they're gonna use that as an excuse to take Day out, which is what they always wanted in the first place. Whereas if Day comes after somebody else, it might flip Nicole, but it might also like, hey Nicole, they wanted me to come after you instead, but we have our thing. So like and Nicole knows that they were coming after Day. So I do feel like Nicole is weirdly one of the, like the only thing is Day just, as long as Day recognizes, okay, this is a person that's not putting me up right now, and that's all. She can't trust her with information, and she can't rely on this long term. Just like I mean, that's sort of like you all like. So that's how you need to approach the game. Is like. Recognize that there are certain people that will do certain things in certain moments, but that's always subject to change. But you have to deal with what you've got in front of you right now, I think.
Yeah. I mean that's right. I mean, I feel like it's. Oh, I just hate the armistice of it all because in the back of both of their minds they're like, and so it's just always going to be about which side is going to strike first. And I just hope that Devon would have the wherewithal to at least let someone else do it if she doesn't want to do it.
Oh yeah,
but we'll see.
Danny is going to talk with Nicole. Danny's a bit upset because Cody's been stomping around the house all day. Like, oh, some people, Tyler's doing the thing to me. And that she was talking to Tyler, and afterward, Cody came up to her and was like, I didn't tell you to talk to Tyler. What are you doing? And she's like, what's his problem? He's been acting so weird. Enzo's been acting weird too. He's been like all grumpy and holed up in his HOH room. And now like this Bay and Day thing with like Bailey talking to Christmas, like that's weird. I'm getting concerned, Nicole. What's going on?
Yeah. Cody has really his younger brother side is really coming out because Paulie would just like handle his business, right? Like he would go straight up to the mountain. What's the curse? He was just go straight up to whoever it is and let them know what was going on. But Cody is like really just like he pouts. He's a pouter because I feel like that's probably gotten him attention in the past. And it's starting to rub Danny the wrong way. But I mean, Danny sort of started it because Danny also kind of like has the same sort of behavior, like when something doesn't go her way, or if she spills a seed and it doesn't sprout the way that she wants it to, she just waters more. She's like, no guys, like look, you gotta pay attention to this. Like I told you guys this is gonna happen. They're gonna split up the slick six. They're gonna expose us all. You guys aren't listening. So like both of them sort of like they just don't mesh well together. I just feel like their styles of game, like much similar like the Devon and Bailey style of game doesn't mesh well. Danny and Cody don't mesh well at all. So this is the third time in the past like 7 days that they have been like at odds with one another. It's like something's got to give. And it's such a shame because Cody doesn't even want Danny to go, but Danny's probably up the list to go next. Yet they're still fighting with one another. So it's like, well, Danny, you're really not doing yourself any favors because this is the guy that probably would want to keep you in the end. But
yeah. So on top of this, Bailey's been upset throughout the day because she overheard a conversation between Danny and Tyler, where Danny was asking Tyler like what went wrong between you and Bailey on your season, and he was like, well, I was mean to her, and she was like how are you mean to her, and he said, oh, I put like sunglasses on and I didn't like she asked me to talk and I was like nah, and I put my sunglasses on, and she was like, well, that's it, like isn't that just game, and he was like, it's like it's both, it's game, it's personal, and like Tyler, passed with flying colors in this conversation with Bailey overhearing it, right? But Danny was like, wow, if that's what sets her off, we're screwed. And Bailey was not pleased to hear this conversation happen.
Did we see this conversation on feeds? We only got.
I didn't see it myself.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. But Danny's a dummy, because if Bailey was really that close to you, you didn't scan the yard, girl. You didn't. It's not like Bailey's hard to find. Like she's right there. So that was kind of weird for you to like have this conversation within earshot. And this is another reason why I feel like Big Brother is so hard to win. Aside from the fact that you have to be checking doors or wherever your surroundings at all times, but you have to have some level of empathy or patience, or at least have a poker face for that empathy or patience. Like it's not a good idea to go around and like diminish other people's feelings, because it's just never a good idea, whether it's in the game of Big Brother or in real life. So for you to make that comment, especially considering what Bailey went through at the end of her season, it's like, you might not want to do that. And I'm glad that Tyler had the wherewithal to at least not even delve into those waters, because I'm sure that was on his mind as well. But he was just like, I messed up. I broke her trust. She thought we had a good thing going. I was kind of like unnecessarily rude with the whole sunglasses routine. And that's where it is. That's where it is. And for Danny to be like, well, did you really do anything though? It's like, who cares? She was mad. That's what happened. Move on. Like, now you're screwed, Danny. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, Danny and Bay do have a conversation. It's a very long, very fake conversation.
I had to move away from it so many times.
Yeah, during the conversation, there really isn't much of substance here. They're just BSing each other. The takeaways that Danny is going to have from the conversation is that Bailey was saying, oh, next week will be an important one. Things could get rough. And Danny's like, why would things get rough? Hey, as long as we're not on the block together, we should be fine, right? And Bailey's, oh yeah, we'd be fine. But Danny is further sensing that like something is off here, something is up. She really is starting to feel like she like are Bay and Day gonna turn on me? Is this happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bailey wouldn't like list any names as to who she would like want to go after. So now Danny's like, oh, you're telling me it's going to be rough, and you're not naming targets. And this coupled with that information that you said that you have allegedly for Christmas. So yeah, Bailey didn't do a really good job here. I don't think that Danny did a really good job either, to be honest. I mean, she did kind of like get this sort of like uneasy nature out of Bay, which I guess, it clues her in a bit. But yeah, this conversation was just so like, oh, like you really need to work on like having a poker face. Just lie. Just say, be all about the team and be like, oh, whoever the Slick Six wants out, or throw out a name that we already know that it isn't, in the Slick Six. Like, oh, Memphis really pissed me off the other day. I wouldn't mind throwing his ass up. Like, at least, even if Danny takes that information back, at least it's not Danny. So then your threat level goes down. But it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this last week or a few weeks ago, whenever, that an effective player gives trust by sort of like letting people into their house, right? And like certain rooms they have full access to. When you're playing the game, every single person needs to have their own story as far as you're concerned. Like you have a story for every person. So for Bailey, when she interacts with Danny, she needs to be prepared with, according to Danny, what is my story? And that means that, like, hey, I'm going after like Memphis and Ian or something, or like, you know, something whatever, or Memphis and David or whoever. And like, anytime I'm around Danny, anytime I'm around somebody that might leak information to Danny, I need to make sure that my story is straight with Danny. But Bailey in this spot, she has changed her actual targets. She's no longer targeting Memphis or anybody else. She's targeting Danny. So when she talks to Danny and Danny asks her, who are you targeting? And she's already mentioned that she's not targeting Memphis anymore. It's like, oh, crap. What's my story? I don't know. So that's what gets you in trouble.
That on top of the fact that she already feels like they're trying to, I mean, her and Devon had a conversation earlier, like about how that they're trying to get them to snap, and that she's already like walking, like she's really like, you can see that it's like, it's winding up with Bailey. It's winding up. And this is what I was afraid of when we did the draft. And I was like, I don't know if she's going to slip back into that old ways. And I don't necessarily know if it's slipping back into old ways. It's just like, people only have a certain level of patience. You know what I mean? And at some point it's like, okay, now that I'm pissed me off, now I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. And I feel like that moment is getting closer and closer with her, considering all the things that she hears about herself and like how it's just, you know, and on top of the fact that Bailey has, I mean, Devon like assured her a bunch when they were having a conversation that she has been playing one of the best social games that she's seen in a long time. And I don't know if I necessarily agree wholeheartedly with that, but I would say that Bailey does have a decent social game. She doesn't really seem to piss a lot of people off, at least not intentionally. And when it does happen, she's clued in on it, and then she tries to rectify the situation. Like the whole thing with Nicole, Devon told her about that. She tried to smash it. But now this whole thing with Danny, it's like, if I confront her, I'm going to be the one that looks like the bad guy, and she's going to be the one that's, you know, twists it back with the rest of the alliance that probably already want us out anyway. So it's just like, what do I do? Do I just let it slide, or do I say something and try to smooth this over? And it's like, honestly, when it comes to Danny, I really don't know. I feel like leaving her in the dark probably is the best thing, but that comes at a emotional sacrifice for you, because now you have to sit here and bite the bullet over and over and over again. So I feel for her. I really hope that she can find a way to find her peace, find her calm. I mean, she tweeted out last night, like, look, Swaggy, I wish that you were here because none of these people understand me the way that you do. So I really feel for her. She's really feeling a little bit alone, a little misunderstood, and I get it. I just hope that she can find a way to center herself, like, and listen to Devon's advice. Like, she's almost out the door. She is this close. As long as Ian's information does not mess this up, she is this close to being out of the door. All you have to do is play it cool, hope the right person wins HOH, win HOH, and then it's said and done. It's said and done.
That's it. That's it, yo.
That's it, yo.
So Danny talks to Cody. She asks him, like, what's up with you, Cody? And he's like, I'm just sick of it. I haven't slept in days. I'm sick of this day and bay stuff. And everything. She lets him know that Nicole told her, that Christmas told her, that Bailey told her that she had something to tell her.
Come on, BB updates, come on.
After the next HOH competition, which is super sketchy. And she also tells him about her conversation with Bailey just now, that she didn't tell her her targets were. She said next week would be rough. She really thinks that Day and Bay are preparing to flip on them and out the Slick Six next week and try to make a move. And Cody's like, oh yeah, that would be bad. I mean, also though, Tyler concerns me that Tyler's, you know, I'm worried that Tyler is nervous about, you know, the Slick Six being outed to Nicole and the, you know, the wall yeller thing. And Danny's like, well, he has a reason to be. Like, we did leave him out of that. But don't worry. I talked to him. I squashed it. Like, we're totally cool. Like, he's totally down.
Is that on the feeds?
Yeah, it was a long conversation. They didn't like specifically, you know, talk a ton about the situation. It was just a lot of like personal conversation, like they that, and that's why she felt so good. She was like, we talked about it, squashed it fast, and then we talked personal stuff, and then we talked later, and he didn't bring it up again because it didn't matter. Like, she feels very comfortable with the fact, like Tyler has his story for Danny. Right. He told that story, and she buys it completely.
That's when they were on the hammock together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, I switched over to the conversation and they were talking about dogs and stuff, so I went back to wherever else was going on in the house. But I guess that's why she feels good, because it was a very normal conversation.
Yeah. She talked about meeting Angela and that she thinks they'll all be friends. And
Okay.
Tyler's just like,
Oh yeah, I did hear a bit of this.
my
Yep.
knife
Okay.
is already in your back and you don't know it.
Okay.
So, Cody says that because she keeps pushing it away from Tyler. He gives up on the Tyler thing. What Cody is trying to do is like distance himself from this. Like, oh, this is when this happens. It's Tyler. It's not me. I told you I was worried. So, but she's not biting it. So he goes back to Day and Bay and he says, yeah, Day and Bay did mention to Enzo something about like, oh, Cody and Danny are really close. And so this is, again, he's trying to set this up like he's not a part of this. Like Day and Bay are concerned about him and Danny, and so that's why he didn't know anything about this. They didn't tell him because they didn't trust him, which is actually close to true. But he's trying to set it up so that he doesn't get any blame for when it happens, in my opinion. So
I agree. I mean, because what do you say? I mean, if you tell her now, then the whole thing implodes. You no longer have a place to hide. She's going to be coming for everybody. I mean, even if she doesn't come for you, like I said, like your everything is blown up. So it's like there's nowhere left to hide. But if you keep quiet about it and you kind of like give her like little tidbits of information, then maybe, if she goes up on the block initially, then it doesn't blow back on you. If she gets backdoored, it doesn't blow back on you. So I don't know. I wonder how much longer he can keep it up. And I wonder just how much more it's going to take for her intuition to kick in and be like, because I feel like she's already fun. I mean, she already said that she feels a little bit uneasy with Cody. She's like, I'm gonna cry. Like, I feel like I can't. I feel like we've just been in a really bad place for like the past few days. So I feel like if they don't keep their crap together, especially today, she's gonna find out, and it's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah. For all we know, she found out last night. We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
So she says she wants to get together with Cody, Tyler, and Enzo so that they can get their story straight for when Bay and Day out them next week. That they're gonna say, no, we were approached, like it was never a real alliance. She wants to prepare their stories. Cody keeps trying to be like, no, let's not do that, because he knows that if she tries to prepare a story with Enzo and Tyler, they will sink her so fast when she tries to tell that story. But there's no helping it here. So she goes and talks to Enzo, and she shares her frustrations with him. And she immediately is like, so did Bay and Day tell you that I was really close to Cody? And so like they have said something like that before, but nothing that Cody really knew that much about that would be like a real story to tell to Dan. Enzo has no idea what she's talking about, basically, is what I'm saying. And so he's just like, yeah, yo, yeah. It's annoying, yo. Like, I just don't want to even talk. Like, Enzo will just always, if he doesn't know what you're talking about and doesn't agree with your overall tone, his go-to response, that's it. Yeah, that's it, yo. I can't even talk game, yo. That's it.
Exactly,
I'm just done with
man.
this
That's
stuff.
it.
I'm just going to lock myself in the room. That's all.
No more game talk. I'm just going to listen to my Eminem, eat my M&Ms, and chill, yo. That's it.
Yeah.
No more.
She wants to figure out who they're targeting. So she wants to call a Slick Six meeting that night, so that she can get some names out of Bay and Day. For like, who exactly are you targeting next week? So that was on the docket. That was on the schedule for them. But I don't know if they had it.
Who knows?
Because the feeds are down. Final conversation before the feeds go down. Ian and Kaser. Ian is asking Ian. Very similar conversation to the one Bailey had with Kaser. Like, poor Kaser, everyone keeps coming up to him and being like, hey, can you help my game on your way out without me giving you a vote or campaigning for you?
So sad.
Ian's
Poor
like, hey,
Kaser.
do you have any additional information for me? He's like, nothing I haven't already said. And Ian's like, okay, I have a theory. I've got something that I want to tell you on Thursday. Kaser's like, on Thursday?
Why, Ian?
Why would you
Why?
tell me on Thursday? What's the point of telling me on Thursday? I like how's that gonna help me stay? He's like, it's not. Like, okay. Why wait then? Why not tell me now? Like, I don't wanna make it seem like I'm trying to keep you by telling you things. Aman just almost spoke a few times to our audio listeners. He is now blanketing. Uh, he says like, I'm 95% sure I've got the whole thing clocked. And Kaser's like, does that help me stay in any way? He goes, no. Like, okay. Kaser eventually says, just tell me, man. Like, why? Like, just tell me. And Ian's finally like, okay, fine, I'll tell you. And he's so excited about this. He's like, okay, here's the thing. It's like an octopus. And he tells him his whole theory. And he's like, the two people running the game. And Kaser's like, yeah, Cody and Tyler. And he's like, no, Cody and Nicole. And Kaser's like, Nicole? That's not Nicole's game. Like, she lies low for the first half, and then she makes opportunistic moves in the second half.
He's always so spot on. He's always on, like, just right on the money.
He's always right on the money half of the time. Always half of the time right on the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he gets right, it's right. Like, when it rains, it pours with him. Like, it's just like, oh, we're losing him.
Yeah, but Ian's like, no. We got a gift from the outside. The BH. We should use that gift. We would be idiots to not use that gift. And it's like, okay. So, like, okay, let's say Cody and Nicole are the core. Then, like, what's the thing? And Ian's like, well, I can't find a way to connect any of it to Tyler. Like, he's not on the inside. And Kaser's like, really? And he's like, I can't find a way. He's like, okay. And Kaser's like, I feel like Danny's in the best spot. And he's like, I agree. And Kaser feels like, so Cody's the one running the whole show. Cody has to go. If you won HOH, what would you do? And he's like, let's just say I'm going to be gunning for it real hard. He's like, what? Let's just say I'm gonna be gunning real hard for it. What? I can't hear you. I'm gonna be trying to win the HOH. Oh yeah, of course.
You can always look at me and see home.
Yeah. So Kaser suggests, well, so you put up Danny and Cody, right? Like, that's how you get them to implode. And Ian's kind of like, yeah. So that's kind of like the game plan. It seems, perhaps. At least it's the one that Kaser seems to think is the way to go. Ian doesn't really want to tell him, I think, exactly what he wants to be doing, because he shouldn't have really told him any of this anyway. But again, Kaser's like, so how can I make this work to help me stay? And Ian's just like, you can't. You're screwed. Against anybody but Christmas,
information
maybe,
in a
but,
vault.
Yeah.
Oh, Kaser, man, that really sucked. Did he spent a lot of the day to himself yesterday. Like, he was not on the feeds unless, like, he was directly involved with conversations. And so people were just coming to him in that room, trying to get him to blow games up, trying to use him as a sounding board for their own strategy. And it's like he was right there the whole time. I don't know how many times we can talk about how the opportunity was right there. It was right there, and y'all all squandered it. So it's just annoying to see this happen with him. But I mean, if what Ian is his game plan, this is going to be most of these HOHs have been sort of pivotal. I think this one might be like the most pivotal of them yet, because you're going to have Ian trying to implode the alliance. You're going to have Cody trying to keep his alliance intact. You're going to have Tyler trying to win his little thing with Danny, get her out of there. You're going to have Bailey also trying to get Danny up out of there, or somebody else that you can be persuaded. Davon, the same thing. David, I mean, he just wants to win just because he wants to win because of the stats of everything. And I mean, who knows what Memphis and Christmas are going to do, but Christmas are probably the same thing. So it's just like this HOH. I feel like a lot of people are going to be going for it, as Ian says.
Yeah. And that's what we had. After that, the feeds shut down. They came back for a brief second where we saw Ian talking with David in the photo room, very upset about the fact that the backyard was going to be closed down for another week. He said he was already struggling. And now, he's like very upset, very, very much feels like he'll be struggling with no backyard time. And the rest of the house guests were in the kitchen talking about like, I wonder why the backyard was closed. And they joke about it being like because they saw a rat outside. But it's because of the wall yeller. This person on Twitter made it pretty obvious that that's what they were doing. So the feeds were down for, I believe, about 9 hours. By the time they came back up, they were already asleep, and that was the day.
Yeah, for a second, I got really. I mean, I thought for the most part it had something to do with the wild, but I was like, oh my god, they also got tested for COVID today. But then I was like, wait, if the results wouldn't come back that fast, so they can't be, something couldn't have happened. So I was like, but for a second, I was like, it's been like 10 hours. Like, where are these feeds at? I got a little nervous. But...
Us Big Brother Canada 8 watchers will never be comfortable with random feed outages ever again.
No, never again. But this, and I caught a bit of your podcast last night with Lavina and Taran, with Lavina and Brent. And yeah, like, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I think this is why the wall yelling is just not good, y'all. Like, it's, you just invite everybody else to do the same thing, especially if you're going to reward them online for it. Like, if someone's going to get a bunch of likes and retweets because they have a megaphone and they go over there and yell something, this is what's going to happen every season. And then a lot of people are being like, oh, well, doesn't matter anyway because it's not like the feeds were that interesting. I'm like, that's not entirely true. I feel
why is it your choice?
Yeah.
Why is it an individual's choice to go and make that decision for everybody that watches the show? For
everybody else, because they clearly were punishing us. They were like, okay, well, y'all are out here messing up, so let's just cut these feeds down. Like, I feel like we're in like grade school right now, and I feel like we shouldn't have to feel that way. So like, I mean, I understand the frustration of watching a monotonous season. I get it, and to be honest, I really don't think that the season is that monotonous, because if you look at all of the inner machinations of this Slick Six thing going on, it's actually quite interesting. I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm sort of enjoying watching Tyler having this power struggle, because we haven't really seen him play this type of game the last time. So, I mean, I guess if you're not a Tyler fan, you're like, oh, I don't care, he's going to be fine. You know what I mean? But guys, like, what's the alternative? No feeds or no backyard for these house guests? Like, which, you know, might make them go crazy. So I'm like, maybe this is a kind of a good thing, but I don't know. It's just, I just feel like we really should just behave, because next season, with one of your faves is running the house and is like the next queen or king of Big Brother, and then somebody comes on with a megaphone and is like, this person is running the house, and then it ruins their game.
Yeah.
So that's just my little soapbox about it.
There you go. Aman soapbox. I love it. Okay, so that's what we have for you from the day, unless there's anything else that you wanted to bring up, Aman.
No, I think that's it. I mean, I'm having a good time for the most part. It's really rough seeing Janelle outside of the house. Like, I mean, I've never really been that much of a Janelle fan. I feel like I've always been kind of like late to the train, because I started watching Big Brother so late in the game. But you know, it is sort of like, once she sort of left, I feel like a big void was there, and like the air kind of deflated a bit. So I'm kind of sad to see her go. But other than that, I'm just hoping that we can see something interesting in the coming weeks.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I will be live tomorrow to talk about the Stock Watch. I will also be back tomorrow morning here at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 22 live feeds, assuming that we have Big Brother 22 live feeds. And then tonight we'll be recapping the veto episode of Big Brother 22. So make sure you tune in for that as well. Aman, where can people find you?
You can find me at Aman Adwin on Twitter and on Instagram.
All right.
And also check out the RuPaul's Drag Race podcast. We got the season finale of Canada's Drag Race on Thursday. Super excited. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'll see you next time.